and welcome to ENC2135. My name is Molly, and I am your instructor for this class. Before we get started talking about the class, I thought I would introduce myself to you just a little bit so that you know who I am and why I'm teaching this particular class online. So for the past 5 years, I've been at FSU. I've been a graduate student as a PhD candidate. I recently completed my degree and will be moving to a tenure track position at the end of the summer. I study rhetoric and composition, which is a focus on writing, analytical writing, research writing, and theory about composing and rhetoric. My main area is focusing on performance, embodiment, and digital multimodal composition. Therefore, teaching this class is a great extension of all of the things that I do so that I can see how everything is implicated when we're communicating only through digital means. I also have taught a variety of courses at FSU. ENC2135 has actually been one of my favorites. I'm excited to see what it looks like in an online platform. I've also taught rhetoric, writing, editing, in print and online, and other composition courses such as ENC1101. So as we go through this particular class, I want you to think about how you are composing and communicating to different people for different reasons. Yes, I do your grading. Yes, your peers read your work and give you feedback. But who is the person you mean to be talking to? That's something we're going to focus on throughout the semester, whether it is in any of your projects, particularly Project 3, where you're creating different genres and different kinds of documents that are not necessarily a written text. So, ENC2135 is research genre and context. This particular course is focusing on writing for situation. That allows you to think about how you're going to communicate different purposes to different audiences for different reasons. We'll read several things that help us understand what different kinds of situations look like and how they function in both face-to-face communication, written communication, and digital spaces. You might notice as you go through our syllabus that we are including a social media component. I include Twitter in all of my classes. It's useful for a couple of reasons. One, it helps us think about the way information circulates. You can circulate information by including a hashtag, you can retweet, you can quote tweet, and things like that. And it just helps you think about a little bit larger audience. It also allows you to start considering what you are going to cultivate as your professional persona, your academic persona, as you continue through your collegiate career. The component of Twitter for this particular class requires 5 tweets per week, and we must use our class hashtag ENC2135MD. Feel free to use your own personal Twitter. I use mine, but you're also welcome to create a Twitter just for this class. Either is completely acceptable, but think about why you choose one over the other. If you're choosing to create a Twitter for this class and only this class, and you have your own personal Twitter, think about why you made that decision. Is it because of the difference between the personal and the public? Is it because you're sharing things in different ways and you don't necessarily want to bombard your followers on your personal Twitter with academic information, or vice versa? It's totally your call. Either way, once you've decided, you're going to follow me at the Molly D, and then I will add everyone to a class list. You're not required to follow anybody that is not in our class, but you are required to follow each other so that you can see everybody conversing, you can ask each other questions, and you can have conversations on Twitter that maybe feel a little less stilted than they may in a space such as Blackboard. Once we've set up our Twitter, we'll use it pretty regularly. It'll be very clearly marked on your announcements for each week. But remember, you can tweet about anything that relates to class. This anything is pretty broad, thinking about what we're doing in the projects, the kinds of reading that we're looking at, as well as questions and confusion. Twitter is a really great space to ask those questions because even if I don't respond to you, someone else in the class probably will. And that also builds a community outside of the classroom. For us, our classroom is already digital, but it's just an expansion beyond the boundaries of Blackboard that sometimes feels a little bit clunky, doesn't feel as natural to use. Do know that I will read your tweets. I know that might seem shocking, but I do actually read them. Once I start following you, you pop up in my feed. Same thing goes for me. I tweet about everything. I'll be tweeting about class. I'll be tweeting about, the weather. I also have a tendency to tweet about food. I like to cook a lot, and so that kind of surfaces a lot on my Twitter. So I like to balance that personal and that professional in my social media spaces, but that's also just my personal preference. As you go through this class, you'll notice that we have 3 major projects. The first project is a rhetorical analysis. That rhetorical analysis can be of anything that you can actually analyze. I often suggest projects that are looking at TV episodes, maybe movie trailers, posters. You don't necessarily want to analyze something too big, so a 3-hour movie is probably too much. Same thing as like you don't want to analyze the entire Harry Potter series. Maybe pick a scene from your favorite book, a really important scene that you think communicates what's going on in that particular text. This analysis can be of something that is print or digital. That's your call. I often tend toward the digital, but that's partially because of what I choose to study as a scholar. That project will have a couple of parts. Everything will be submitted through Blackboard. I will give you feedback. You'll do peer review, and you'll kind of rinse and repeat that practice for every project that we do. Then project 2 is our larger project. It's a research heavy project. It'll be divided into 4 sections so that it's not quite so overwhelming. First, we'll start with a research proposal. Then you'll write an annotated bibliography. Then you'll actually write the research project after you've given me some sort of research plan. Each of those have a particular word count, working toward the goal of 3,000 or so words. Don't panic. I know it's a lot of words, but as you scaffold those projects together, it's easier to arrive at that particular word count. For this particular project, research requires that you have at least 7 scholarly sources. That means we'll go through, I'll have a video about the library, some of the things that are available to you, and give you some of the resources that you might need to use. And you can also include 3 non-scholarly sources. That means sources that you think really contribute to the conversation, but maybe are not scholarly. They could be blogs, they could be tweets, they could be pretty much anything that contributes to your conversation. Just like your rhetorical analysis, any project will be researchable. You may just have to tweak the focus just a little bit to help you be able to find the kind of research that you need for this particular project. Your third project grows out of project 2. So you're still looking at the same topic, but you're composing in 2 genres. That means you're making 2 different things. Often students create videos, podcasts, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, websites. They also write poems, maybe a short story, pamphlets, handouts, flyers. Once again, if you can argue that it's a genre, I'm going to buy in. Part of your project will also be a rationalization of the work that you've created, why you chose the genre that you did, and the audience that you were trying to target. For instance, you would not use a cartoon to target people who are above the age of 50 unless it's probably something like South Park. If you are targeting children, a children's comic strip, things like that would be your focus. Any time that you choose your audience, that's going to dictate the kind of genre that you choose to use. In addition to our larger projects, which will be sort of the organizing structure for our class, you'll be doing some smaller projects. We have something that's called the QQC, the question, and comment component of this class. This component is our discussion. Every week, you'll generally have 1. A couple of weeks, you have 2, just to kind of balance out the reading that you're doing that week. And you'll talk about the text that we've read. Sometimes you're talking about more than 1 text. You can talk about one over the other if you prefer, or pick both and kind of put them into conversation. That's your choice. There are 2 parts to the QQC. So you post your 2 questions in your comment. Comments are not just, well, I really liked this, or I really hated this. Okay, great, but why? Always have sort of a little bit of an explanation, dig a little bit deeper into the content. Same thing for your questions. It's not a yes or no answer. It should be something that requires thought for somebody to answer it. You don't have to know the answer to your question. Someone else may answer it, things like that. I may answer it, whatever happens with that. The second part of your QQC is a response. Once the QQCs are posted, generally those are posted by Wednesday. By Sunday, you'll respond to at least 2 other classmates' QQCs. You could answer a question, You could have a conversation with them through their comments. You could ask them questions. You'll want to look at our assignment sheet so that you can see the requirements, because these are not just teeny tiny 6-word sentences. Generally, there's a little bit more meat to them, just so that you're actually really thinking through all the content that you've read and how that might apply to the project you're currently writing, or how it may affect the way you communicate, compose in other areas of your life. In addition to that, we have 4 online activities. These activities are housed in your journal on Blackboard, which the Blackboard tutorial kind of walks you through how to get to all those things and everything. Each one has its own set of directions, and those directions focus on helping you build content for projects, understanding an approach to a particular project. There's lots of options. The first one that you do is the getting to know you. The completion of that project is really important because it's how I count you as present in this class. FSU has the first day drop rule, which means that if students are not present on the first day of class, they're dropped from the class. That must be completed by add drop, which is on Thursday. So you must complete the first online activity by Wednesday. That way, everybody that's in the class that is supposed to be will still be. If you do not complete that project, I will have to drop you from the class, and that kind of becomes a nightmare for you trying to get re-added and things like that. So be sure to do the Getting to Know You online activity as soon as possible. As we go through, you'll also kind of notice that the workload is a little bit heavy. Summer session is a condensed version of 16 weeks in 6. So that means you've got multiple drafts due within a week, and that can be kind of time-consuming. It can also be a little bit overwhelming. Don't forget that just because this is an online class doesn't mean you're not able to use the Writing Center. If you are local, you're welcome to come in, use the Writing Center just as you normally would during a regular semester. If you are not local, you are able to do some online tutoring sessions, which are outlined on the syllabus just a little bit, but you're also welcome to contact the Writing Center director or look at the website to figure out which one's going to serve you best. That just allows you to kind of get a second set of eyes, any kind of support that you need as you go through the writing that I can't give you through feedback, or your peer reviewers are unable to provide as well. This particular class also, as all of our English classes do, particularly ENC2135 and 2135, we really focus on the process of writing. That means that we understand that achieving the end goal of however many words is not necessarily where you learn the most. That is where you show the polished version. That's what I read. But we also look at the process. Because of that, you're required to do 3 drafts for every project. Scaffolding submission days throughout the week for Wednesday and Sunday helps facilitate the focus on revision, the focus on process. This also gives you a little bit more opportunity to give that feedback to your peers and then apply it, not just get it done and move on. So another reason the drafting process is really important and the revision process is that once you've finished your first draft and your second draft, and you've submitted your final copy for grading, you have the opportunity to revise projects 1 and 2. That means major revisions. If you go back and fix your comma splices, missing periods, and typos, that's not what revision is. Revision takes content, sees it in a different way, actually revision. Know that just because you submit a revised version does not mean that your grade will be improved, but there's a good chance that you've made some good changes and your content has improved. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you have that opportunity for both projects 1 and 2. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, project 3 will be as it stands, but it's a slightly different kind of project. It's not so polished. It's not so focused on format. It's focused on remediating the project from print text to a new kind of text. Another thing you'll want to think about is I will post grades. Those will be kept up to date as possible. Scaffolding the days, Wednesdays and Sunday, also helps me help you know how you are doing in class. I'll also be providing feedback on your drafts. Some drafts will get more in-depth feedback than others. Preferably, I will respond within Blackboard, so make sure that you upload a file that will open there. I always suggest to use PDF mainly because that opens across operating systems. Please do not upload pages. I am not a current Mac user, and so those files simply do not open on my technology. You can upload Word documents and things like that, but just know the PDF gives me an image of your text, and that means all of your formatting stays, all of the font choices that you make stays, things like that. Sometimes if I open a Word document that you've saved on my computer, depending on your program, those things move a little bit, and then sometimes things look a little bit wonky. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just be sure that it's a Word document or a PDF so that I can open it. Also, please try to use the submissions as opposed to sending them via email. I post grades after I respond on Blackboard, and so it just gets a little bit confusing, and sometimes I don't update your grades the way I would if I had been grading it in the correct place. That being said, if you need to email something to me, please let me know, and please do it by the due date. Most of your projects are due by 9 a.m. on the day that they're due. That just gives you time to know how to get to what's coming next. It also gives me time to give you feedback so that you can actually apply it to what you will be turning in on Sunday. When we do workshop, you'll want to submit your drafts at least a day in advance to your group so that everybody has time to actually read them. You don't want to submit them 5 minutes before it's due because then they can't have time to give you feedback. All of your workshop questions will be inside the particular project's folder, and you'll go through those questions, respond to each other's work, and give each other the feedback, and then you'll apply that for your next draft. Throughout the semester, we'll be doing 2 e-conferences. That means you'll schedule a time with me generally between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. On Monday through Thursday. If that is absolutely impossible, we'll figure it out. That's where we will Skype for about 10 to 15 minutes or use Google Hangout or Blackboard Collaborate to talk about your draft. The only project that you won't be giving me a full draft prior to your conference will be Project 1. We'll do a little bit of brainstorming in that conversation. You'll maybe tell me what you think you're going to be analyzing, some of your plans for that, and things like that. For Project 2, it will actually be a whole draft. You'll submit those prior to your meeting, and then I'll look at them so that we can talk through the draft together. It'll be similar to a one-on-one conference if you've ever had a conference with a professor. Otherwise, it'll be a little different if you ever have a face-to-face one. But Skype or Google Hangout is probably my preferred mode of technology simply because I can Skype with you regardless of where I am. Google Hangout also, but Skype particularly because I can Skype with you with my phone if I need to, if I'm not right at home at my computer at a time that best serves you. As you go through, you'll want to be sure that you keep up on those daily assignments. They're not meant to hurt you, but if you don't do them, they definitely will negatively affect your grade, and nobody wants that. Be sure that you pay attention to the weekly schedule that's on your syllabus. It's the end of your syllabus. It gives you a breakdown of what we're reading for those days, what's due those days, and where to submit everything. When in doubt, project descriptions and everything that you need for each project is in a project folder. Anytime we're reading anything that's not in our textbooks, they'll be in your course library. Please make sure you get those books. If absolutely necessary, I do have a PDF of the first section that you're reading from the Bedford Book of Genres. But we're using these books, again, this class is only 6 weeks, so everything goes very, very quickly. So you're going to want to make sure you have both texts. Another thing you need to be sure of is that they are the FSU editions, and they are the most recent editions. I know books can get expensive and things like that, but you really need the ones that we're actually using, especially since we're not in a face-to-face classroom. I am unable to find your sections in your textbook that match the ones that we're looking at in our textbook. So you need to make sure that it matches the ones that are posted on the bookstore as well as your syllabus. It's just super important that everybody's actually on the same page, like literally on the same page. So as you start getting your Twitter account set up, make sure that you follow me. I'll follow you back, and then we'll start setting up all of those components. If you have any major questions, feel free to tweet them. Feel free to email me. If you email me, there's 2 different emails that show up. When you email me through Blackboard, I have mdaniel@fsu.edu. That goes straight to my other email as well, which is med11g@myfsu.edu. I respond to both, so feel free to email which is easiest for you. But make sure that you keep that communication window open. Don't wonder where things are. Make sure you find them. This is, again, a 6-week course and everything is online. And that means if your technology or my technology isn't working, we need to figure it out very quickly instead of waiting and being like, oh, I wasn't able to do it. I can't help you if it's week 3 and you weren't able to do it. So if you have any questions, email. And I look forward to seeing the memes that you post. I will also be posting them as our Getting to Know You activity, just so that we can kind of see what the conversation is going to look like, how you guys want to communicate with each other, and things like that. Hopefully, this course will be really great.